Hey for snapping when mom said she'd take my newborn away for 6 months? My name is Emily. I'm 28, and I work from home handling billing for a physical therapy clinic. It sounds boring until you realize I can do it in sweatpants with crackers balanced on my belly. At the time, I was 7 months pregnant, living in a small 2-bedroom rental in suburban Pennsylvania with my fiancé Marcus. Most of this mess started because my mom, Diane, decided my baby was not really mine to raise unless she approved every single choice I made. Our duplex was on a quiet street in the Lehigh Valley. It was the kind of neighborhood where everyone had a grill on the back patio and a wreath on the front door, even in months when wreaths didn't make sense. The walls were thin enough that I knew our neighbor watched game shows every weeknight at 7 p.m. The dishwasher only ran if Marcus kicked the bottom panel 2 times. The nursery was technically the second bedroom, but for months it looked like a Target aisle had given up halfway through a shift. Boxes of diapers were stacked by the closet. The crib was assembled. The dresser was not because one drawer slide had gone missing and Marcus kept saying, "I swear I put it in the little bag with the screws." We were not rich, but our bills were paid, the crib was safe, and the baby was wanted. Marcus was 30 and worked as an assistant manager at a grocery store. His schedule changed constantly, which my mother brought up like it was a criminal record. He would come home at 10:30 at night with discounted flowers from the clearance bucket or a container of soup from the deli because he knew I got nauseous if I waited too long to eat. He never made a show of it. He would just put the soup in a bowl, set it next to my laptop, kiss the top of my head and say, "Eat before you start yelling at insurance codes again." I loved him for that. My mom did not. Diane was 54, polished, organized, and impossible to accuse without sounding ungrateful. She lived 20 minutes away in a townhouse that smelled like lemon cleaner, and had framed photos arranged so carefully that you would think we were a family that had never once cried in a parked car. She did not usually scream. That would have been too easy. She suggested. She worried. She helped. She used the word practical the way other people used a weapon. When Marcus and I picked our Oban, she said, "I'm sure she's fine, but did you check where she went to school?" When we mentioned we were thinking about the name Lily, she said, "That's sweet. Very common but sweet." When she saw the pale green curtains I bought for the nursery, she stood in the doorway and stared at them for 3 full seconds before saying, "Well, if that's the mood you want in here." Once I came back from the bathroom and found her rearranging the changing table drawers. "Mom," I said, standing there with one hand on my stomach, "please don't move things around. Marcus and I already had a system." She smiled without looking embarrassed. "Your system had wipes in the bottom drawer." "Yes, because that's where I wanted them." "I'm not controlling you, Emily. I'm trying to keep you from making permanent mistakes." It was always like that. Too soft to call cruel. Too constant to call love. I kept making excuses for her because she was my only parent. My dad had been gone since I was 16. After he passed away, Mom and I became what everyone called close. What they really meant was that she stepped into every empty space he left and never stepped back out. She checked my bank account when I was in college because I'm helping you avoid overdraft fees. She called my first landlord because you sounded stressed about the lease. She cried when I moved in with Marcus because I'm not losing my daughter to some man who stocks cereal for a living. I told myself she was lonely. I told myself she meant well. I told myself a lot of things because fighting her took energy I rarely had, and pregnancy made me crave calm so badly that I confused silence with peace. The baby shower was supposed to be simple. Aunt Marcy, my mom's younger sister, rented the community clubhouse in her neighborhood. There were folding tables with plastic pastel tablecloths, a balloon arch that leaned slightly to the left, and a Costco sheet cake decorated with tiny pink booties. Someone brought a tray of pinwheel sandwiches, and my cousin Tara mixed a punch that was mostly sherbet and Sprite. Diane had already annoyed me 2 times before noon. First, by adding duplicate items to my Target registry without asking, because she didn't like the quality of the bottle warmer Marcus and I chose. Second, by telling 3 different people that my feet were alarmingly swollen, when they were just normal pregnant feet shoved into sandals. Still I tried. I wore a loose blue dress. I smiled through people touching my belly without asking. I thanked Aunt Marcy for the cake. I let Diane fuss with my hair even though I was 28 years old and had asked her not to. Then she stood up with her glass of lemonade. I just want to say a few words, she said. The room settled. Paper plates paused in midair. Marcus, sitting beside me, put his hand on the back of my chair. First it sounded normal. She talked about how excited she was to become a grandmother. She said my dad would have loved seeing this day. My throat tightened, and for one fragile second, I thought maybe I had been too hard on her. Then she smiled at the room and said, "Of course, Emily has always needed a little extra guidance." A few people chuckled politely. Diane kept going. She was the girl who would lose her shoes while wearing them. And now she's going to be responsible for a whole tiny person. My face got warm. "Mom," I said quietly. "Please." She waved me off like I was being cute. "Oh honey, everyone knows I'm teasing." Marcus's hand tightened around my chair. "And Marcus," she said, looking at him with that shiny smile. "He's a nice boy. He really is. Still growing up himself with that unpredictable schedule. But his heart is in the right place." The room went thinner somehow. Tara stopped smiling. Aunt Marcy looked down at her plate. Diane lifted her glass a little higher. "But don't worry, everyone. The baby will have a calm, stable place with me while Emily figures out motherhood. I have the guest room ready, a fenced yard, and the kind of routine a newborn needs." There was a short burst of laughter. It was the nervous kind people use when they're not sure whether something is a joke. Diane didn't laugh with them. I stared at her. "Mom, what are you talking about?" Her expression softened in that practice way that made me feel 8 years old. "Honey, don't get upset. This is exactly what I mean." A chair scraped. Someone coughed. I could hear the refrigerator humming behind the clubhouse kitchen door. Marcus leaned close to me. "Say the word and we're gone." "I don't want to make a scene," I whispered. He looked at my mother, then back at me. "She already did." Diane continued as if the room was still with her. "New moms need supervision. There's no shame in that. Family steps in. That's what family does." "Mom," I said louder this time. My voice shook, but I got the words out. "My baby is not living with you." Her eyes flicked toward me. For the first time all day the smile slipped. "Well," she said lightly, "we'll talk when you're calmer." That did it. Marcus stood and helped me up. It was not dramatic. It was not like some movie hero. He just placed one hand under my elbow and said, "We're leaving now." I wanted to disappear. I could feel everyone watching us as we walked past the gift table, past the balloon arch, and past the cake with my daughter's name piped in pink icing. Tara caught my eye, and there was something on her face I didn't understand yet. It was not pity. It was a warning. In the parking lot, the July heat hit me hard. The car seats were hot enough to burn your legs when you touched them. Marcus started loading gifts into the trunk, while I stood there trying not to cry in front of the clubhouse windows. Diane followed us out with her purse tucked under her arm. "You humiliated me in front of my own family," she said. I turned around slowly. "You told everyone my baby was moving in with you. Because someone has to think clearly." Marcus shut the trunk. "Diane, this isn't the time." She didn't even look at him. "I'm speaking to my daughter. Emily gets to answer for Emily," he said. That made her eyes sharpen. "See? This is what worries me. He's always right there, speaking over you." "He didn't speak over me," I said. "He helped me leave after you embarrassed me." Diane stepped closer but kept her voice low because people were starting to come out with leftovers and gift bags. "You are emotional. You have been emotional for months. Pregnancy does that. I'm trying to create a safety net before you crash." "Crash," I repeated. She sighed like I was exhausting her. "You'll understand after the baby comes." I got into the car because if I stayed I was going to either cry or scream. Both would have become evidence for whatever story she was already telling herself. Marcus drove home without turning on the radio. Halfway there, he reached over and put his hand palm up on the console. I took it. At home, I sat on the edge of the bed with my dress bunched under my belly while Marcus unloaded the gifts. The pregnancy pillow took up half the bed behind me. It was ridiculous and huge, like another person had moved in. My phone buzzed 3 times. "Mom, you left in a very hurtful way." "Mom, I hope you know people were concerned." "Mom, we need to talk about what's best for the baby when you're ready to stop reacting." I showed Marcus. He read the texts and handed the phone back. Don't answer tonight. She's going to tell everyone I'm unstable. He sat next to me. Then don't give her a live performance, to quote. It was the first time I realized he had been watching her longer than I thought. The strange calls started 2 days later. Aunt Marcy called while I was working. I had a billing spreadsheet open, a mug of cold coffee beside my keyboard, and a sleeve of crackers balanced on the bump because my morning sickness had returned strongly. Sweetheart, Marcy said. I just wanted to check on you. That's nice, I said, already tense. I'm okay. Are you resting enough? Your mom said you've been sleeping too much. I frowned at the insurance code on my screen. Who said I was sleeping too much? Well, she did. She just worries because you've been overwhelmed. I'm pregnant, Marcy. I nap. Of course. No judgment. I just think accepting support is mature. I sat back in my chair. What kind of support? There was a pause. You know, family support. After we hung up, my cousin Darren texted Marcus, not me, asking whether his work schedule would change after the baby because newborns need consistency. An uncle I talked to maybe 2 times a year called and left a voicemail saying, your mom means well, kiddo. Don't shut her out just because she's telling hard truths. Hard truths. That phrase sat in my chest like a stone. I called my mother once. She didn't answer. Then she texted me instead. Mom, I don't want to be attacked over the phone. Me. I'm not attacking you. I want to know what you've been telling people. Mom, I have told people I am worried. Me about what? Mom, your defensiveness. Marcus's influence. Your refusal to discuss practical care options. Me. My baby living with you is not a practical care option. Mom, we'll talk when you're not in this mood. I stared at those words for a long time. This mood. It was like I was whether she had to wait out. That night, Marcus came home with grocery store soup and a dented bouquet of yellow tulips from the clearance bin. He found me sitting on the nursery floor, surrounded by onesies and unopened gift bags. You okay? He asked. I don't know, I said. I keep thinking maybe I'm overreacting because everyone else is acting like she just gave an awkward speech. He leaned against the doorframe. Do you think she was joking? No. Then start there. At 2:13 a.m. my phone lit up. Tara, are you awake? I was. Pregnancy had turned sleep into a series of negotiations I usually lost. Mia, what's wrong? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Tara, I'm sorry. I should have sent these sooner. She's making it sound like you're not safe to be alone with the baby. Then the screenshots came through. The family group chat was called Marcy's Crew. It was exactly the kind of cheerful name that made the contents feel even worse. I wasn't in it. Marcus wasn't in it. My mother was very active in it. Diane. Emily forgot to eat 2 times this week until I reminded her. This is what I mean by not being ready. That one was based on a text where I had jokingly said, got busy with work and realized lunch was just crackers. Diane. Marcus closes the store some nights. I don't know what kind of plan they have for a crying newborn when he's gone and she's exhausted. Aunt Marcy. Could she stay with you for a while after delivery? Diane. That would be ideal, but she gets defensive when I mention it. Diane. This is not about taking over. It's about being prepared when Emily crashes. My stomach tightened. There were more. Diane. I'm looking into emergency paperwork. Nothing dramatic. Just something that gives me legal footing if they refuse help. Darren. Papers like custody? Diane. Temporary. For the baby's safety. Please don't use loaded words. Aunt Marcy. Are you sure this is necessary? Diane. I hope not. But if I wait until after the birth, Marcus will block me and Emily will be too emotional to make good decisions. I slid off the bed and sat on the bathroom floor because I felt sick. The tile was cold under my legs. The phone brightness hurt my eyes. My daughter kicked hard just once, like even she had an opinion. Marcus woke up when he heard me crying. Emily. I handed him the phone without saying anything. He sat on the edge of the tub and read every screenshot. His face changed slowly, not into shock, but into something steadier and angrier. She's building a case, he said. That was when I remembered the folder. During the baby shower cleanup, before everything blew up completely, I had gone out to my mom's car with a bag of tissue paper and ribbon she insisted on saving. Her back seat was immaculate, of course. No coffee cups, no receipts, no random sweaters. There was just a beige folder on the floor behind the passenger seat. Emergency care plan was printed on the tab. At the time, I thought it was one of her church fundraiser packets. But when I bent down to put the bag beside it, I saw pages inside that looked legal. They were not court-stamped or officially filed exactly, but they were formal. There were lines for names, signatures, and dates. Diane had shut the car door fast and said, "I'll take care of that." Sitting on the bathroom floor, reading the group chat at 2 a.m., I knew that folder had not been about church. The old me would have called Diane immediately. I would have cried, demanded explanations, and begged her to admit she was going too far. I would have given her a fresh emotional scene she could clip into her version of events. Instead, I texted Tara. "Me, do you have more?" Tara, "Yes." "Me, send everything." The next morning, I told my coworker Ellen. Ellen worked in the same physical therapy clinic, technically an HR-adjacent admin. That meant she knew everyone's business and had the moral spine of a courthouse clerk. She had also survived a controlling ex-husband, though she rarely talked about it unless she thought someone needed the warning. We were on a video call pretending to discuss denied claims when she noticed I looked like I hadn't slept. "What happened?" she asked. I tried to summarize it calmly. I failed about halfway through. Ellen did not gasp. She did not call my mother names. She just got very still. "Stop trying to win the moral argument," she said. "Make a record. Dates, screenshots, voicemails. All of it. I don't want this to become some huge thing." "It already is a huge thing," Ellen said. "You just weren't in the room where she was making it one." I hated how true that was. She told me to email copies of everything to myself. Save the voicemails as audio files. Write down dates while they were fresh. Stop answering phone calls if I could avoid it. Keep communication in writing. "And Emily," she added. "Yeah. Do not sign anything your mother puts in front of you. I don't care if it says it's for emergencies. I don't care if it's written in crayon. Sign nothing." That afternoon, I made a folder on my laptop named Baby Safety. It felt dramatic until I started filling it. There were screenshots from Tara, texts from Diane, and my uncle's voicemail. I added a note about the shower speech and a note about the folder in the car. I saved copies to a backup email account. I felt paranoid and responsible at the same time. Then Diane called. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice came through syrupy and tired. "Emily, I don't know what Tara has been stirring up, but you need to understand that people are worried because they love you. This isn't punishment. It's planning. Once the baby is here, you'll be emotional and Marcus will block me. I need some legal footing before that happens. Because if there's an emergency, I will not stand by while my granddaughter suffers because you're proud." Played it 2 times. Then I saved it, emailed it to myself and got sick to my stomach. 2 days later, Marcus and I sat in a small law office across from a family law attorney named Priya. Her office had gray carpet, a dying fern, and a candy dish full of peppermints. Marcus brought a notebook. I brought a folder and a fear so large it made my hands numb. Priya read through the screenshots without changing her expression. She listened to the voicemail once. Then she folded her hands on the desk. "She cannot make herself a parent by wanting it badly," she said. I started crying from relief so fast I embarrassed myself. Priya slid a tissue box toward me. "But false narratives matter, so we treat this seriously." Marcus leaned forward. "What does that mean?" "It means you do not sign temporary guardianship paperwork under family pressure. Not at brunch, not in a living room. Not because someone says it's harmless. It means you document her statements. It means you tell the hospital exactly who is and is not allowed access. It means if she makes false reports or tries to obtain medical information, you respond formally." "Can I really keep her away from the hospital?" I asked. "Yes," Priya said. "You are the patient. You decide visitors. Use a privacy password. Ask for a no visitors note if that's what you want." The word patient hit me strangely. I had been thinking of myself as a daughter in trouble, not a grown woman with rights. Priya helped us draft a boundary email that was calm enough to bore a judge. No accusations. No insults. Just direct statements. Diane would not be involved in medical decisions. Diane would not be present at the birth. We would not sign guardianship or emergency custody documents. Communication needed to be in writing. I didn't send it immediately. I needed a day to breathe. Diane used that day to invite everyone to Sunday brunch. The text came in the family chat I was actually part of. Mom. Nothing dramatic. Just family, food, and a grown-up conversation before the baby arrives. Marcy is hosting after church. I'll bring quiche. Emily, sweetheart, this is a good chance to clear the air. I'll also bring the paperwork we discussed just in case. I stared at the words paperwork we discussed. We had discussed nothing. Aunt Marcy replied with a thumbs up. Darren sent good idea. Tara privately texted me 10 seconds later. Tara, please tell me you're not going alone. Me, I'm going. Not alone. Marcus read the brunch text and said, we don't have to do this. I know. You don't owe them a courtroom scene. I know. But I also knew my family. If I stayed home, Diane would hold court without me. She would say Marcus was isolating me. She would pass around her folder. She would tell them I was too fragile to even attend a brunch. For once, I wanted to be in the room where my life was being discussed. So I prepared. The printer jammed 3 times while I tried to print the screenshots, because apparently even technology thought I needed character development. Marcus stood in the kitchen making tea, while I pulled out a crumpled page covered in black streaks. You don't have to perform calm for them, he said. I know, I said, smoothing a clean screenshot into the folder. I just need to be clear. We printed Diane's texts, Tara's screenshots, and a transcript of the voicemail. I kept the audio file on my phone. I highlighted the lines where Diane mentioned legal footing, the baby's safety, and getting something signed before birth. I emailed Priya to let her know about the brunch. She replied with one sentence that I read about 20 times. Do not sign anything, and if she presents paperwork, state clearly that you decline and that any further contact about guardianship should go through counsel. I called the hospital and asked about privacy settings. The woman on the phone was kinder than I expected. We can add a password to your chart, she said. And a no visitors note if you want. Yes, I said. My voice did not shake. No visitors except my fiancé and one friend. Anyone else allowed back? No. Just them. After I hung up, I sat at the kitchen table with my hand on my belly and listened to the old dishwasher growl through a cycle. Marcus put the tea in front of me and kissed my shoulder. On Sunday, Aunt Marcy's house smelled like coffee, quiche, and furniture polish. It was aggressively normal. There were paper napkins with little lemons on them, a fruit salad sweating in a glass bowl, and relatives pretending very hard that we were all there because brunch was fun. Diane wore a cream blouse and pearl earrings. She kissed my cheek before I could dodge her. I'm glad we can all be mature today, she said. I smiled with my lips closed. Tara was already there, sitting near the end of the dining table. When I walked in, she gave me a small nod. Marcus stayed beside me. He was not hovering, he was just there. The folder was on the sideboard. Babe. Neat. Labeled Emergency Care Plan. My heart thudded so hard I felt it in my throat, but I did not look away from it. I wanted Diane to see that I had seen. We ate for maybe 15 minutes. No one said anything real. Aunt Marcy asked about the nursery. I said the dresser was still missing a drawer slide. Darren talked about gas prices. Diane served quiche like she was auditioning for the role of reasonable grandmother. Then she cleared her throat. I think, she said, we should address the elephant in the room. Marcus set down his fork. Diane went to the sideboard and picked up the folder. There has been a lot of emotion around what I said at the shower. I can admit maybe my timing wasn't perfect. Tara made a quiet sound that might have been a laugh if anything had been funny. Diane ignored her. But the concern is real. Emily is overwhelmed. Marcus works unpredictable hours. Newborn life is not a game. So I had some temporary emergency paperwork prepared. She opened the folder and pulled out a stack of pages. My aunt's face tightened. Diane. No one is taking anything from you, Diane said, looking at me. This simply gives me authority if you become unstable. The room went dead silent. I looked at the pages, then at her. Unstable according to who? She gave me that sad smile. Honey, this reaction is exactly why I wanted the family present. There it was. The trap. If I got angry, I proved her point. If I cried, I proved her point. If I left, I proved her point. So I opened my own folder. Diane blinked. Before I could speak, Marcus took out his phone and placed it face up on the table. For everyone's safety, I'm recording audio of this conversation, he said calmly. We won't use it unless we need to. Diane's mouth tightened. That's unnecessary. No, I said. It's not. My voice was quieter than I expected, but it carried. Before anyone tells me I'm overreacting, I said, I want you to see what Mom has been saying about me when I'm not in the room. I handed the first printed page to Aunt Marcy. Tara already had copies, and she passed them down the table. Darren looked uncomfortable before he even read anything. Diane laughed once. Screenshots can be taken out of context. They can, I said. That's why I brought several. Marcy read silently. Her eyebrows pulled together. Darren rubbed the back of his neck. My uncle, who had told me Mom meant well, squinted at the page like the words might rearrange themselves into something less ugly. I read one out loud. I'm looking into emergency paperwork. Nothing dramatic. Just something that gives me legal footing if they refuse help. Diane reached for the page. That was a private family conversation. It was about me, I said. And my baby. You are twisting this. I'm not done. My hands were shaking now, so I put the paper down and picked up my phone. This is a voicemail Mom left me after I found out about the group chat. Diane's face changed. Not much, but just enough. Emily, she said sharply. I pressed play. Her voice filled Aunt Marcy's dining room. Emily, I don't know what Tara has been stirring up, but you need to understand that people are worried because they love you. This isn't punishment. It's planning. Once the baby is here, you'll be emotional and Marcus will block me. I need some legal footing before that happens. Because if there's an emergency, I will not stand by while my granddaughter suffers because you're proud. The voicemail ended. No one moved. That silence was different from the baby shower silence. At the shower, people had been embarrassed for me. At brunch, they were embarrassed because they had helped her. Aunt Marcy looked up slowly. Diane, what is this? Diane's eyes filled with tears so quickly I almost admired the efficiency. After everything I've done for you, she said, but she was looking at me, not Marcy. I have been trying to protect this family. You tried to turn my pregnancy into a custody case, I said. That is a disgusting thing to say. You brought guardianship papers to brunch. They're temporary. I'm not signing anything. Her tears spilled over. You would deny your child a safe place because you want to punish me? I felt the old guilt rise up, hot and familiar. It was the guilt that had made me apologize when she hurt my feelings because her feelings got louder. It was the guilt that had made me say, she's just worried. When Marcus found me crying after her calls. It was the guilt that had kept me small because small daughters were easier to love. Then my daughter kicked. I put one hand on my belly. You do not get to create an emergency and then offer yourself as the solution, I said. Diane stared at me. I took out the boundary letter. My voice steadied as I read, not all of it, just enough. You will not be at the hospital. You will not be in my home. You will not be alone with my child. From now on, communication about the baby goes through email. If you make a false report, try to access my medical information, contact my workplace, or continue telling people I am unsafe without evidence. My attorney already has the file. Attorney, Darren said. Yes, Marcus said. We spoke to one. Diane turned on him. Of course you did. You've been waiting for a chance to cut me out. Marcus did not take the bait. Emily made the decision. I support it. Tara stood then. Her voice shook, but she kept going. The screenshots are real. I sent them. Aunt Marcy, I'm sorry, but you needed to see what was happening. Marcy put a hand over her mouth. She looked at me, and for the first time in weeks, she seemed to actually see me instead of my mother's version of me. Emily, she said softly. I'm sorry. I should have called you before believing any of this. That almost broke me. Diane made a small wounded sound. So this is what we're doing? Everyone is turning on me. No, I said. Everyone is hearing me. My uncle pushed his chair back. I didn't know the whole story. Diane snapped. Because you didn't need the whole story to understand I'm worried. Marcy looked at her then. Really looked at her. Diane, you brought legal papers to my house and tried to pressure your pregnant daughter into signing them in front of us. For the baby. No, I said. For control. That was the last thing I said before Marcus and I left. Tara walked us out. She hugged me carefully in the driveway, avoiding my stomach. I'm sorry, she said into my shoulder. You helped me, I said. I waited too long. You still helped. In the car, Marcus did not ask if I was okay. He knew better. He just started the engine and drove us home. I watched Pennsylvania neighborhoods roll past, seeing all those tidy lawns and porch flags and families with things hidden behind clean windows. When we got home, I took off my shoes, went into the nursery, and sat in the glider we had bought secondhand from a woman in Allentown. The room was quiet. The dresser was still missing one drawer slide. There were diapers stacked too high in the corner, and a tiny yellow sleeper folded on the crib mattress. For the first time in weeks, the room felt like ours again. Diane did not go quietly. At first, she sent angry emails with subject lines like "Concerned Mother" and "Please think clearly." She accused Marcus of manipulating me. She accused Tara of betrayal. She said Aunt Marcy had been confused by theatrics. She wrote, "You are going to regret shutting out the only person willing to tell you the truth." I did not respond. Priya sent a formal letter summarizing what we had already told her. Further harassment, false claims, attempts to access medical or childcare information, or pressure regarding guardianship would be documented and handled through counsel. After that, Diane's emails changed. They got shorter, then colder. Then eventually they stopped. A few relatives reached out. Some apologized. Some gave the kind of half-apology people use when they don't want to admit they enjoyed gossip. I just thought your mom meant well, one cousin said. She might have meant something, I replied. But it wasn't well. Aunt Marcy came by 2 weeks later with a casserole and no advice. She stood awkwardly in my kitchen while Marcus wrestled with the dishwasher. I'm ashamed, she said. I didn't know what to do with that, so I handed her a glass of water. She looked toward the nursery. I should have asked you. Yes, I said. She nodded. I will next time. That was enough. Not perfect, but enough. When I went into labor, it was a Tuesday morning after a night of terrible sleep and one awful leg cramp. Marcus was supposed to open the store, but one look at my face and he called his manager while pulling on yesterday's jeans. At the hospital, the nurse at check-in asked, "Anyone else allowed back?" I was sweating, scared, and gripping the edge of the counter, but I answered clearly. No. Just him. My friend Ellen came later with a phone charger, lip balm, and the calm energy of someone who knew how to handle paperwork in panic. Diane was not called. Diane was not texted. Diane did not appear in the hallway with flowers and a speech. The password worked. The no visitors note worked. The world did not end because my mother was not at the center of it. Our daughter was born just after midnight. We named her Lily anyway. Marcus cried before she even made a sound. He stood beside the bed with his hair sticking up, his eyes red, and one hand covering his mouth like he was trying to hold himself together and failing beautifully. When the nurse placed Lily on my chest, she was warm and furious and perfect. Her tiny fist opened against my skin. I remember thinking very clearly that no one in that room owned her. Not even me, not like property. She was not a prize in a family argument. She was a person, and my job was to protect the space where she could become one. For the first month, I barely thought in full sentences. Newborn life was not easy just because Diane had been wrong. There were nights when Lily cried and Marcus and I passed each other in the hallway like ghosts. There were mornings when I cried because the coffee got cold before I could drink it. There were days when I forgot whether I had showered. But being tired was not the same as being incapable. Being new at motherhood was not the same as needing to surrender it. Diane sent one email when Lily was 3 weeks old. Subject: Congratulations. The email read, I hope you are happy. I hope someday you understand what you took from me. I forwarded it to the folder and did not answer. 2 months later, she sent another one. This one was different. It was not perfect. It was not even close, but it was different. She wrote that she had been scared. She admitted she had handled it badly. She said she should not have involved the family or brought legal papers anywhere near me. She did not fully admit she had lied, but she admitted enough that Priya said, "This is the first message that doesn't look like a threat." I waited another month before I agreed to see her. We met at a public park on a Saturday morning. Marcus came with me. Tara came too, though she stayed back near the walking path with a coffee, pretending badly that she wasn't watching. Lily slept in her stroller under a little striped blanket. The stroller brake was locked. My phone was in my pocket. We had agreed on 20 minutes. Diane looked smaller than I remembered. She wasn't weak exactly. She was just less powerful outside her own house, without a dining table or a group chat or a folder to hide behind. "She's beautiful," she said. "I know." Her eyes flicked to me, surprised by the firmness, then back to Lily. "Can I hold her?" I felt Marcus shift beside me, but he didn't speak. "Not today," I said. "You can sit with us for 20 minutes. Diane swallowed. For a second I saw the old response building. The hurt face. The sharp inhale. The line about cruelty. Then she nodded. "Okay," she said. We sat at a picnic table while Lily slept through most of it. Diane asked normal questions. How much did she weigh now? Was she sleeping at all? Did she like the stroller? Each answer I gave was short but not cruel. When 20 minutes were up, I stood. Diane looked like she wanted to argue. She didn't. "Thank you for letting me see her," she said. "You're welcome," I said. That was not forgiveness. It was not a reunion. It was a door cracked open with the chain lock still on. Months later, my life is quieter, though not in a perfect way. Lily still hates naps unless the room is exactly the right temperature. The dishwasher still needs a kick. And the nursery dresser finally has all its drawers, but one of them sticks. Marcus still brings home discounted flowers, now sometimes with a tiny stuffed animal from the seasonal aisle because he cannot help himself. My phone stays on silent most evenings. Diane communicates by email when necessary. She has had 2 more supervised visits, both in public, both brief. She asks before touching Lily now. Sometimes she looks wounded by the rules, but she follows them. I used to think keeping the peace meant swallowing my discomfort before anyone else had to feel it. I thought being a good daughter meant protecting my mother from consequences, even when those consequences belonged to her. Now I understand the difference between peace and obedience. Peace is my baby sleeping on my chest while I drink reheated coffee in a quiet kitchen. Peace is Marcus assembling a bouncer on the floor and muttering at the instructions. Peace is knowing my hospital room, my home, and my daughter's life are not community property, just because someone says the word family. The day I stopped protecting my mother from consequences was the day I finally started protecting myself. And when Lily is old enough to understand any of this, I won't tell her the story to make her afraid of family. I'll tell her so she knows love without respect is not love she has to accept. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.